Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Mike and you're watching Bush Rat Knives. In this video, we're gonna make another one of these Bushlores like this, but we're gonna use a piece of raindrop Damascus. I didn't make it, I bought it. In the future I will start making my own, but currently, since I'm in my basement and I haven't built my workshop yet, this is the best I'm getting. So for this particular knife, I've decided to go with, well, let's just get down into it. We're gonna use the raindrop Damascus, and we're going to sandwich that between these a little bit darker curly maple scales, and I went ahead and I put on some red liners, curly maple, raindrop Damascus. There we go. That's the knife. Thanks for watching. Okay, so just that, and I'm gonna use Corby fasteners again because I like Corby fasteners. So let's get started. First things first, we're gonna want to cut this out. And this is 5 mil thick, and there's some hard spots in there. After I get this cut out, I'm gonna have to normalize this one for sure. I don't know that this was normalized, so we're gonna normalize it after. We'll try it. Lucky for you guys, you don't have to watch the whole thing. This is going to be fast forwarded. Hey Siri, play Zach Bryan. All right, that was difficult. Once I started cutting, I couldn't turn. There was no adjustments. I don't know what was going on. The blade's pretty dull, but yeah, I couldn't turn. All these little steps. I had to do steps. It wouldn't go around a corner. It's ridiculous. So anyway, there it is. It's cut out now. Let's give her hell. All right, what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to finish up this sharpening choil. Although, I mean, I know woodlores don't typically have them, but this is not a woodlore. It's a bushlore. That's a little bigger than I normally do, but that's what we're doing today. All right, now I'm going to mark my bevels. And my pinholes. Scales to come to there. Alright, that's what we got. So let me mark. Oh, the center line. Jesus, criminy. Alright, now let's figure out where I want my bevels to come. I'm going to put a steep bevel on here, down to my line, and then I'm going to go drill these holes out. Oh, come on. Keep hitting my head. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and normalize this. I'm going to do 2 cycles, heat it up to non-magnetic, let it cool, air cool, then heat it back up to non-magnetic, and then let it air cool again. After I finish those 2 normalization cycles, I'll go ahead and do the heat treat and quench. So, all right, We've made it over to the dungeon area. This is where I keep my forge. Okay, so let's go in. Get some fire. Ah, fuck! I forgot to drill the holes. I'll go ahead and I'm going to normalize it first. We're all right here. I'm just going to do that again, and then we're going to drill these holes in a minute. So I'm not going to record this. That's soot on my face. Yeah. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I did try skipping a step. I tried heat treating it without drilling the holes first. But that would have been a mistake, because drilling those holes would have been a lot of fun. I'd probably need some more drill bits too. We'll get back on track here. Just takes a minute sometimes. Since I'm doing Corby fasteners, it'll be a 4mm hole through the metal. And then I'm going to put a series of holes throughout the handle and the tang to, lighten it up a little bit. It's a big piece of steel, so we'll do that too. We'll go ahead and move back over to the other side of the shop, and I'll go remark the holes and center punch them. All right, focus right there. A little sidebar here. Now, this camera I have has a touch screen, and it's touch to focus, so I can pick the point that I want to focus at. And sometimes I'll find myself actually like touching the thing in the physical world that I want it to focus on. Another example of my many brain farts. We're back here at this step again. You can't even see what I'm doing. Anyway, you get the idea. Let's go drill these damn holes out now. All right, I got the 4mm on here. I'm going to drill all these holes 4mm, except for the lanyard hole. That's going to be either 6 or 1/4 inch. I haven't decided, but I'll drill these first. Swap out the bit now. All right, I'm going to drill a bunch of smaller holes in. All right. Go ahead and chamfer those. Now that that's done, come over here and I'm going to throw it on the flats. All right, now that the 2 normalization cycles were done and the holes are drilled, now I can do the final heat treat. So let's do that. Why do I always put it in the goddamn oil? Why? Why? So that's it. It's heat treated now. I got some angle iron. I'm going to clamp it too and throw it in the oven so it also keeps it straighter. So that's what I'm going to do. All right. I clamped it. The fuck? All right. I clamped it. Anyway, whatever. 2 hours, 2 cycles, 400 degrees, or 300 and... All right, guys, we're back. It is the next day. I have the same shirt on. Went ahead and I tested the hardness. It's right around 60, so that's perfect for this. This is going to be good. We did have a minor setback. After looking a little closer, one of the scales had a crack along the grain line. Now, maple's a good hard wood, but it needs to be not effed up. All right. Also, I tried cleaning up my work table with some acetone, and it ate everything. Just gonna glue these together real quick. Okay. All right, we're gonna do 5-minute epoxy because I don't want to wait. All right, so where we're at now, take it over to the sander and sand off the decarb, and then we'll put the actual bevels on it. Mask on, power on. All right, now comes the scary part for me. This is let's do my second time freehanding, and this is quite a bit more expensive. So I'm going to start at 150. I don't want to be too aggressive. The less aggressive the grit, the less likely I am to screw this up. So, but I also want to remove material. I just don't want to remove too much because I don't know what I'm doing. Let me get a drink first. I just went ahead and marked my blade with that Pro Sharpie, and then I used my calipers to run a line through it so I can see where I want my bevels to end. That was a while. It took a while to grind. I got it down to where I wanted it. They're both even. It is. I'm gonna have to hand sand it. It's not perfect, obviously, but I'll hand sand the bevels, and then I'll put the flats back on here and crisp up my lines. So let's do that. I'm just gonna put that there. I'm gonna sand it. Alright, you're not going to be able to see much. I'm going to try not to stab myself on this thing. That's ridiculous. Oh, can you even hear me? Can you hear me? I don't have this on. Alright, try this again. I sanded the bevels up to 400, and I'm going to take it over to the Scotch-Brite wheel, and I'm just going to change the scratch direction to up and down because my flats are going to go this way. Just something I do. Just buff those a little bit. Just give them a little satin. So now I'm going to go up to the flats, and I'm going to take these up. I'm going to take these up to 400, and then I'll put my logo on it. All right. Well, that's what it looks like now. I'm going to go ahead and put my logo on it, and then we'll go ahead and etch her. 9-volt battery, Q-tip. Oh, balderdash. Well, that's thoroughly mixed, I could tell. The way it flew at me. That didn't go so good. I think it's going to be hidden by the Damascus anyway, so next purchase is a laser engraver, so I don't have to worry about that. So what I'm going to do now is I clean this off, cleaned off all the fingerprints and whatnot. That's why I'm holding it with a paper towel. And I'm going to, where's my wire? There it is. Oh, is there fingerprints on there already? Fuck me. All right, let me get some alcohol, wipe it down again. How do I get a fingerprint on there? I didn't even touch it. Here it is. It's going in the acid for a little while. I don't know. We'll try 15 minutes. We'll do 15 minutes. Take off the cap and put the knife in. I keep a sketchy bag of powder around. It's just baking soda. We're gonna coffee etch it, so while that's doing that, I'm gonna go heat up some water, make a coffee mixture thingy. We're coming up on the final stretch of the etching process. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take it out of the acid. I'm going to put it in some water. I'm gonna put some baking soda on it, scrub it around, put it back in the water just to, you know, neutralize the acid. With this, you can see the etch on it. It's pretty dark right now. After I neutralize it in some water and some baking soda, I'm gonna take a medium Scotch-Brite. Done with you, acid. Ugh. Excuse my French. I don't think this will eat my skin away, but probably prolonged exposure isn't ideal. Looks pretty good. As it is, I'm going to go ahead and scrub it down with the Scotch-Brite, and it's going to take all that away. That's okay. We're going to put it in a coffee. Now I've used the Scotch-Brite on it, and you can tell it's nowhere near as dark as it was. Now, if you guys guessed that I was going to use my wife's Stanley, you were correct. We'll leave that in there for a while. All right, I left that in there for about 20 minutes. So let's take it out and see how it looks. Stanley. So that brings us to today's sponsor. I want to thank Stanley for giving me this mug so I can. Oh, I want to thank my wife for giving me this mug so I can use it for etching Damascus. All right, so that's what we're working with now after the coffee. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some tung oil, which is food safe, and I'm going to oil this up to seal it. Shit ton of tung oil on the rag and just wipe it on. That don't look half bad, man. All right, well this is my first time doing Damascus anything, and so far I think it's turning out pretty good. Next time I do this, I think I'm going to use my jig, just so I don't run the risk of screwing up an expensive piece of metal. But this is my second time freehanding, and it didn't turn out too bad, but I was afraid that I was going to screw it up. Man, that thing is pretty. Blade right there. That's not bad. We're going to drill some holes in the scales, so let's do that. Since I'm using Corby fasteners, I just used half of them to line the holes up so nothing gets out of whack. Like so. So let's go cut it out. This is going to be fun because I'm not changing the blade. I'm going to use the same doll-ass blade that's on there. I'm going to go over and drill these out to the proper depth at 6mm. It's pretty good. I'm just going to round it off a little bit and then put the angle on it. I'm going to sand these smooth and then we'll glue the scales on. Alright, we're ready to ready to epoxy these together. All right, got all my Corby fasteners. We need to make up. I'm gonna wipe this down with some acetone. Where the scales are gonna go. That's it. This step's not super important with Corby fasteners because there's hold. They're holding regardless. All right, that's it. Let it harden or let it cure. I'll come back tomorrow. All right, so I let that set up overnight. The epoxy's dried. So first things first is we're gonna file these pins down. I'm gonna take this down to the wood or to the metal now. Try to. Going up to the 150. All right, I got it down to the metal all the way around. This is a thick piece of maple. So I'm gonna taper it from the blade back to the butt. I'm gonna mark that with a pencil or something. Now I got this maple wet because it likes to burn. So I mean, once I get it to the shape that I want it to be, I'm not gonna be able to finish it until it dries. So I'm gonna have to let it dry for a while. So let's figure out where I want these angles to be. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm wearing my apron today. And I'm doing that because I'm gonna keep my clothes clean. Back to the task at hand. I'm gonna want to thin this down pretty thin. Let's take some measurements and then we'll just draw some straight lines. I'm going by feel, and I feel like that's good. All right, and to make it slightly easier, I'm just gonna go ahead and mark it with Sharpie. Something like that. All right, let's tape up the blade. Let's go over to the sander. Hearing protection and respirator. Not that this matters because my wife's gonna kill me for using her Stanley anyways. I sanded it down to where I want it, thickness wise. I'm gonna keep that 36 on there, and I'm gonna set the table to like a 45. I'm gonna mark this first. I'm gonna mark like I do all the time. I'm gonna mark it with my compass where I want my angles to come to, and that way I have a reference. You can't see what I'm doing. So, all right, I'm gonna set the table to an angle and have at it, I guess. Whatever angle that is, I'm going with it. All right, I'm done with the 36. I'm gonna go up to a 150. I'm just trying to smooth out. It took some big chunks. See those chunks there? I'm just gonna take those off and round these corners a little bit. Try to get some of the larger scratches out before I start hand sanding. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna hand sand the crap out of this and smooth all these rough spots out, just going over the whole thing. And then I'll work my way up through each of the other grits, just leveling out, rounding off the edges a little bit. So that's what I'm gonna do. We'll be back. All right, I got it down to 220. It's still damp, so when it's wet, it's not really doing much with the finer grits. So I'll let it dry for a couple hours and come back and sand it again. So where we're at now, after the knife had dried, it stayed a dark brown and you couldn't see the figuring in it that good. So I decided to dye it with leather dye, black. I was trying to do this in post and I realized I didn't tell a story. It didn't make sense. So this is the story. It was brown, didn't like it, so I made it black, and now we're gonna sand it back. So that brings us to this point in time. So now it's black, all right, and I'm gonna go ahead and sand it down so that the black is only in the vertical grains, into the fibers. So let's go do that. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's okay. I think I might have used too aggressive of a sandpaper. All right, I'm just gonna dye it black now. Note to future self, don't buy this maple again. It not work out so well. Even through the black, you can still see the grain of the wood. So this is alcohol based. Let me rub it. A little bit of alcohol will help maybe thin it out a little bit. Oh, look, I got it on my arm. Yeah, that's doing it justice. That's doing good. All right. There. See the stripes in it? Should pop a little more once I hit it with some tung oil. Right now I'm just trying to clean off the liners. Make the red pop on those a little bit better. I'm gonna let it dry like this, and then I'll put some oil on it and seal the handle. See how it pops then. Shut up, cat. All right, guys, welcome back. I let it dry a little bit. Now I'm just gonna put some tung oil on it. When I'm done with that, we'll take a look at it when it's all finished. All right, so I'm just gonna rub it on with a glove, because even though I was using an old t-shirt, it was still leaving little fibers. That's one coat. We'll let it dry. I want the wood grain to show. I want the metal grain to show. That's the point. All right, like I said, I went upstairs and let it dry for a little bit. I think it turned out fantastic. So let's take a look at it. This one was a pain in the ass. So let's get this over with. Hopefully we can see it in the video. You can see the figuring in the maple through the dye. So it took pretty good. If I tilt it, you can see the red in there. It's got nice red liners on there. The blade looks fantastic too. I think it's a good looking blade, man. Good looking knife. There you go. That's perfect. See, it's not super shiny. I like the satin. But I'd like for it to be a little thicker. So I'm going to put like another coat on there. But this is the look it's going to have. It's going to be satin like that. There we go. All right, so there it is. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad it turned out the way it did. It was touch and go for a little bit. Things didn't want to work the way I expected them to a lot of the times. Freehanding it on a pretty expensive piece of steel was nerve-wracking. The original scales being cracked, that was a pain in the ass. The scales not turning out the way I wanted them to at first. I didn't like the way they looked. It just looked like a brown-handled knife. I couldn't really see the figuring in the wood. I mean, it all turned out good in the end. Luckily with knives, you can screw up and it's not that expensive. You can get started pretty cheap. You can get your materials pretty cheap. You can screw up 3 or 4 knives and only be out less than 50 bucks in materials. I screwed up plenty of knives doing this, but I learned from each one. I learned, importantly, what not to do. So the most important thing not to do is quit. It's important to keep going, learn from your mistakes, and grow. And that's what I've done here. over the last year learning how to do this. I've made mistakes, I've learned from them, and I grew, and I've become better for it. If you're trying this and things aren't working out for you, stick it out. Talk to people. It's a good hobby, especially if you like working with your hands and it gives you fulfillment to make something where there was nothing before. That's me. I like to make stuff out of things that are generally worthless. I like to create. This is an outlet for me to create. If I'm not creating something, I'm destroying something. Typically me. I'm destroying myself. I'm glad I'm creating now. I'm glad I'm progressing. And as always, I'm glad you guys stopped by. Thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.